Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the next edition of Animation Today. I am your host, Mark Pudleiner, and again, welcome and a quick thank you for everybody that's come by our animationtoday.ca website or our YouTube channel and subscribe. We really appreciate all that support. And, if you know of anybody else that might be into this podcast and what we're doing, and, if you want to spread the word, we really appreciate that as well. So thanks so much again for being with us today as we go forward. This article today is actually is a little late from when it was meant to be out, is on March 5th. It's in regards to the release of the feature, The Creature from the Black Lagoon. So this article will be set up a little bit differently. There'll be three parts, part 1, 2, and 3. The first part being the story itself, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and sort of the behind the scenes of where it came from, where that story originated. Then part 2 will be the animation connection, from animation regarding the creature and also the design of the creature. There's a connection with Disney feature animation in regards to the creature design. And then the third part is a new sort of section that we've done that I'm pretty excited about. I really like the subject matter. And we'll get into that for part 3. But anyways, let's go forward with part 1 today as we start with the on March 5th in 1954, the Universal Creature, The Creature from the Black Lagoon feature film was released. So this is one of the original posters that came out when the movie was first released on March 5th, 1954. And there's the creature. And, the creature himself was part of that whole Universal monster movie lineup, all those classic monsters that everyone loved. And I did find this image online here. This is from Dracula. They don't have Hunchback, but Frankenstein. There's a Wolfman. There's the creature right there. And the creature was really being released in 1954. It was really at the end of all those classic movie monsters here. It was really the main, sort of the last one that's the classic. And then they end up doing other monsters after that. But okay, so this is one of the original posters that came out in 54 when the movie was first released. And, I always love original poster art, and I just love the design of it. And I was wondering, as far as what does it go for? Like, what do you have to pay to get a original poster nowadays from 1954 if it was in really good shape? And so I went onto the auction site here, Heritage Auctions. This is the go-to place where you can really find out about anything collectible as far as artwork or collectible animation and just everything. It's a great site. You have to be a member you can go back in history and find out what things sold for. So I did go back in history and found out with The Creature from the Black Lagoon, this original poster from 54 when it was first released, it was from, just over $10,000. So, really good shape. I look at this original poster artwork, and obviously, as it goes farther back in time, it's going to be worth more. I would imagine in the old days, they probably put a lot of posters up on maybe walls and glued them. And I don't think they were always put into some kind of cabinet, some display cabinet really looked after. So to have these posters in really good shape, somebody must have gotten a copy and just put it away for safekeepings. And so here we are now. So anyways, looking at some of the other monster posters, like this is Hunchback, way back when, and it sold for $50,000. It's a very cool design. Phantom of the Opera, over $200,000. Dracula. This one actually sold for the most when I went back and found out. This was over $500,000. If you had this, can you imagine if you had a family member that just liked collecting this stuff and they put it away way back when? In 1931, and you had this original poster in really good shape. Well, there you go, $500,000, right? So Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Invisible Man, The Bride of Frankenstein, The Wolfman came out, back in 41, and then this is our original poster, is more of a vertical one, and it sold for $46,000. And so here we are with a Creature from the Black Lagoon now. So again, I just always find it interesting with these posters. So let's, going forward with the Black Lagoon, when this movie was first released. So this is the opening night of the movie when it first came out in 54. You can tell the big crowd there. They're all waiting to go in. There's the creature on the side of the building. So this audience in some ways was a new target for the movie companies. I have this book here, the lady from the Black Lagoon, and the author is Mallory O'Meara, and she talks about the design, and we'll get into that next episode, but she does talk about the focus of this crowd for this movie. And I have a small clip of her. She went on a tour, talking about the book. And let's have as a quick, I think it's like just over a minute and a half of her talking about this audience that was sort of a new target for the company. So let's listen to that.
And this was a very interesting time in Hollywood. This was the mid-50s. And we went from being afraid of Europe to being afraid of space. We were starting to be afraid of the Russians. We were afraid of nuclear war. We were afraid of the skies. We were afraid of spaceships and aliens. So all of a sudden we had this new thing called science fiction. And all of the classic monster movies that Universal had really built as this backbone for its company back in the 30s were all, Dracula, Wolfman, Frankenstein, those kinds of horror movies. They had never done a science fiction movie before. But all of a sudden, the kids wanted the sci-fi, so they had to figure out how to make a sci-fi movie. And that in itself was a new thing, because all of a sudden they had a new audience that they had never had to cater to before. It's very terrifying, still terrifying audience. Teenagers. Before, they had this massive group of teenagers who had pocket money, who had time. This was when the suburbs were a thing, and they wanted to get these kids out of the house. Their parents wanted to get them out of the house. So the best place for them to be was at the movies. So they wanted to make sci-fi movies for kids to go see. So they started cooking something up.
Yeah. So there you go. So yeah, like as Mallory says, it's like there was a new audience and they had money in their pockets. They had money to spend. So let's make these sci-fi movies, and they became really popular. The younger crowd loved them, of course. So I did find when the movie first came out, there's in the newspaper, the Victoria Advocate. There's an article here, a thrill film of Fishman to play here, and I went into the article and I just highlighted it. This explains the story of the creature very briefly. I just thought I would just read this very quickly as far as the main story of the creature from the Black Lagoon. As it says, the creature assumed to be the only living link with the beginning of time rules the mysterious Black Lagoon. When scientists Carlson and Miss Adams with co-workers pursue him, this half-man, half-fish strikes back with amazing fury. Miss Adams arouses strange emotions in the creature too. Scientific expedition becomes a desperate struggle for survival. So a bit of a love story going on there with the creature and Miss Adams. But okay, so going forward, let's go ahead and watch the original movie trailer when it first came out. It's like the classic monster trailer. It's got the monster coming out of the screen. It's got those fonts here with the text design. All the classic shots, all the people screaming at the camera. And there's the title. So great, really cool. So, this movie, of course, was popular, and they came out with a couple more with the creature. The second one was The Revenge of the Creature. Then the third one was The Creature Walks Among Us. Going forward now I was listening to the Joe Rogan Experience, and he had the guest Rick Baker, and Rick Baker is known like back in the 80s with American Werewolf in London. He's the special effects artist, and he won the Oscar for it. And he does this amazing work creating these monsters and bringing them to life. This was before digital. And they're talking about, Joe and Rick are talking about the creature, the model kit that you could get. And there they are talking. They're talking about the creature's design. The episode goes on with the details. There's the model right there, the creature. And so let's go ahead and listen to him just talking about that old model kit that he remembers.
You could paint them.
Oh yeah,
I remember those. I think I had a creature from the Black Lagoon one.
Oh, yeah.
Did they make a creature from the Black Lagoon?
Oh yeah,
one?
they did. Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting film, right? Because that was a unique turn on makeup where they took this guy and they kind of put him in sort of like a scuba suit / reptilian thing. That was one of the cooler makeup works for the time.
Yeah, so there you go. And that model, by the way, I found a version of it that's all painted. There's the model. This was actually the model from the 60s, all put together. Very cool painting. And that's what he's remembering. Okay, so let's listen to Rick Baker here. He talks really briefly about, winning an Oscar. This was the first year they sort of recognized the special effects. And, this was before all the digital stuff. This was before computers. So this is just work of him, the transformation of a man into a werewolf, and is just, basically through the creativity of Rick Baker and his crew. So let's listen to him just talk a little bit about it.
So I thought, well, yeah, if we could do that, and we could stretch that out, and then we could make a hand where you see that stretch, and same thing with the feet. And the Academy finally came around and decided, fortunately for me, that year, that it's time for it to be an official category.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the Academy for creating this new category, and I'm very proud to be the first winner.
I could not believe that this happened to me. This kid that grew up in Covina, making monsters in his bedroom.
I mean, it must have been so cool, like to, as he's growing up, just the whole monster thing, and just trying to create it himself. And look what happens now. His career is in the success of what, he really was a leader in that creative special effects category. So, as he going forward with Rick Baker, he was assigned to create another version for John Carpenter's version of the creature from the Black Lagoon. This is it. This is Rick Baker's work. Here's a model here. There it is. It's really cool. It's really, and if you can tell, the whole point with the creature, there's meant to be a soul behind those eyes. Like, I remember listening to Glen Keane talk about the beast. Like, it's not just a cool looking beast that can be threatening. There's actually a connection. There is a human soul in those eyes that the audience can believe and connect with. And that's, I think, the story behind the creature very much.
Sometimes appearances can fool you. The Beast in Beauty and the Beast gives a frightening first impression.
Now with Beast, there's a guy who's trapped between two worlds. He's animal and he's human. We put up all these pictures on the wall of lions and gorillas and buffaloes and bears because I know that there's different parts of them that are going to come off onto Beast. If you look right into his eyes, I want Belle to be able to see there's a real heart and a soul to him.
This is, of course, Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water and the creature. That is such a cool design. Look at that. And this is a trailer here. Just the beginning of it and a bit of it. And of course, it's got that love story. It's got that connection with the two characters. This is a behind the scenes breakdown of The Shape of Water. Let's go ahead and it's a brief little video here. Let's go ahead and watch this.
This one has a little bit of Creature from the Black Lagoon in it. Guillermo loves that character. He's always said that's one of, if not the most favorite monsters ever.
The difficulty with this creature, it needed to be a creature you could fall in love with.
So that's the connection right there. It has to be a creature that you can fall in love with. So it's not just a design that's scary. It's actually, it's got that human element. And that's the interesting part. 2, 3. Okay, so going back with the creature, a little bit of the history and, where the story came from and just a little behind the scenes. This is publicity stills of the creature attacking the beautiful lady, again attacking, and the lady faints, and there he is carrying her. So there's just some stills from the movie. But, regarding the creature and the suit itself, the two designs, there was two actors. One was Ben Chapman that did the land version of the creature. He was physically just larger. And this is Rico Browning that did the underwater sequence as well. And this is pretty amazing. For this actor, he's wearing the suit, but it was a real challenge because he would have to be under that water and film those sequences. So it was a very tricky shoot that they did in Florida. So the originality, where the story came from, and what I found out was this. It all started actually with this director, Orson Welles, and Orson Welles had a party. He was younger. He had the party. He lived in this house here. This is the house here that's in the Hollywood Hills. And, this is where Orson Welles lived. And he wrote the screenplay here when he was working on Citizen Kane. This house actually is a pretty famous house. There's multiple people that lived in this house. There's, from Frank Sinatra, Rita Hayworth, Barbara Streisand, and even David Bowie lived in this house. And so it's got a huge history. And so the connection with the creature was that Orson Welles was having a party at his house. And at the party was the actor here, the producer, William Allen. And he was there, and he was talking to the cinematographer for Orson Welles. And there was a story that was being told at that house during a party with the cinematographer here, Gabriel Figueroa. And he was talking to William Allen and about this Aztec legend, about this fish man. And that struck a nerve. And he always remembered it, the producer. So the story, the beginnings really happened just as in Hollywood, sometimes things happen. It's just like two people meet, they're talking about something, and the idea gets triggered. So going forward, the William Allen here, he really had a huge role. He, of course, came up with the idea. He did the concept development. And then as you go forward, Maurice Zim did the treatment, screenplay. Harry Essex and Arthur Ross wrote the screenplay, directed by Jack Arnold. And, Jack is a director known for being cast in these monster movies. And here's Jack here with Rico Browning during one of the shoots in Florida for the creature. And Jack's history, like look at some of the movies that he's been involved in. It Came from Outer Space. This is the movie that was released just before Creature. And then there's Tarantula. And then there's the Incredible Shrinking Man, which is a classic. I grew up, as a kid watching that on TV, and it was like, this guy is really small, stuck in this basement. There's a spider there. Here, let's watch just a quick little moment. Here he is here. And there's the spider that he has to deal with. And it was pretty creepy, like as a kid watching that spider hunt him down. So again, Jack Arnold involved, and also, classic TV series that he directed. He directed 26 episodes of Gilligan's Island, 15 episodes of The Brady Bunch, classic television series that, a bunch of us grew up with as well. So back to the creature, originally the original design was this. Now it's the mask. Not that great. It still could be creepy, but definitely what happened there. Like there's a sculpture of working with that original design. But we're going to go forward into the part 2 of this episode, and it talks about, there it is. There's the creature coming down during original filming before they decided to ship. Look at there it is there. And I think the executives they weren't happy with the look of it. Then along comes Milicent Patrick, and this is a huge difference as far as the design of the creature and where the movie ended up going to. So we'll get into that with part 2 and the connection with Disney feature animation and then other animation as far as movies and animation, et cetera. We'll dive into that next episode. So thanks so much for joining us. We are glad you're here, and we will continue on.